This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. In today's video, I'm going to freshen up my beautiful antique bathtub planter with some new flowers. And I'm also going to be planting Vinca in containers as well. The antique bathtub I absolutely love, but it does dry out easily. So I decided, as I'm approaching these hotter summer days, I need to come up with a plan and plant something that is drought tolerant. And I think cosmos is going to be the ticket for me. What I've learned about cosmos, because I've grown them in the past and I've always killed them. Do you ever love your plants to death? Well, that's me. When they look like they're dying, I water them more. In reality, I'm giving them too much water. Cosmos don't really want to be babied like that. So I think these are going to go perfectly in my vintage bathtub. And also, if you've been watching my garden channel, then you know that I love Vinca. These do so well in California Garden Zone 9B because they can take the heat and they can take full sun. I know it's such a delicate and pretty little flower, but it's really a beast in the garden. So I'm going to pot these up as well. So I got 3 cosmos, and I've noticed that in each container there's actually 3 different plants. So if you ever go to the garden centers, look inside. They like to overseed these to make sure that something comes up, and it makes the plants look bushier. What I could do is take these out and separate them, but I'm just going to leave them alone. I'm going to put one in the center. This one is all purple, and then I have 2 mixed varieties, one on each side. And these plants right here, these are Canterbury bells. I planted them from seed a couple years ago, but they have yet to flower. Canterbury bells and hollyhocks and foxgloves. They don't bloom the first year. They're called biennials, whatever that means. So anyway, I'm hoping that my Canterbury bells bloom. Let me remove these Dollar Tree solar lights. These are so beautiful. If you haven't been to the Dollar Tree, I highly recommend you just try. I know a lot of the stuff there is cheap and it breaks, but these solar lights are amazing. These will last me a couple years, and these ones are really pretty. For $1.50, they actually look like little flames glowing. And I got this shovel at the Dollar Tree too. I'm not sponsored by them and I'm not trying to promote them or anything. I'm just telling you that I got this shovel at the Dollar Tree and I love it. It's got like a thick spade, so it really picks up a lot of soil. So what I do is I dig a hole and I'm going to plant the pot inside and make like a mold. And then I just keep digging that hole deeper until the pot fits perfectly in there. Now I'm going to put the soil back, keep packing down, make a nice mold, kind of twist it, lift it up. Then all I have to do is drop this right inside. That's it. So this digging and making a mold technique really works. This was from an ornamental cabbage or my Brussels sprouts that never produced vegetables for me. Sometimes that happens in the garden. We can plant something and it just doesn't work out. It's not that we failed. Well, sometimes it is. Sometimes I love my plants to death and I am the one who failed. But sometimes things just don't grow. That's life. Life in the garden, and our gardens are always evolving and changing, right? Okay, now I'm going to make my mold, place that in there. Yeah, so what I've learned about cosmos is they don't like to be super moist or soaked. Same goes with the Vinca. A lot of times people will see the plant wilting like me, and we automatically think, oh, it's thirsty, I'm not watering it enough. Then we water, and what happens is the roots actually drown. They get suffocated because there's too much water. And then I'm going to put the soil around and make my mold. Twist. Slowly pull it out and drop her in. Then put the rest of the soil around the base. So I hope this year my cosmos do better for me. I'm just not going to give them as much water. And like I said, this bathtub tends to dry out. That's the thing about containers. They do dry out a lot quicker, so we do have to water them more. Or in this case, I won't water it a lot and it'll be perfectly happy. Same thing goes with succulents and cacti. If you ever see yours are dying, it's probably because you watered them too much. They don't like a lot of water at all. What I've also learned is that cosmos like full sun, 6 to 8 hours of sun a day. Sometimes when you go to the garden center and they have the little tags and they tell you the instructions, always do your research anyway, because that's just kind of like a generic instruction, depending on where you live. Plus, you might have a microclimate in your garden. A microclimate is like, let's say, it's 80 degrees in my garden, but then there's one area on the side of my house that gets super hot. Those temperatures might reach 10 degrees higher. It's called a microclimate. That's why my bougainvillea does so well. Bougainvillea is like heat and sun, but where I have it planted against my garage, it's even getting a lot more than the temperatures say outside. Such a beautiful day. As I said in the beginning of my video, today is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We're supposed to just enjoy one day at a time, because tomorrow has enough worries of its own. God doesn't want us to be worried all the time. He doesn't want us to thinking about, oh my goodness, what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month. Just one day at a time. That way we depend on God. If we try to figure everything out too far in advance, then that means we're depending on ourselves. But God's like, just enjoy today. And then tomorrow, I'll get you through tomorrow. Now that I made the mold, I'm just going to drop this in. Ta-da! I'm super happy the way this is looking so far. Now I am going to water it in one time, but then I'm not going to water it again until it dries out. The challenging part will be keeping the violas and marigolds and Canterbury bells nice and moist, and the snapdragons as well, without overwatering the cosmos. So as you can see, I'm just going around, and I'll water everything else real good, and the cosmos won't get as much water. I'm hoping this will work. You know, I'm trying it one more time. Sometimes we have to give things a couple tries before we give up. Okay, I'll give them a little bit of water to water them in. Sometimes we have to try things more than once. We can't give up. Then if they don't do well for me this time, then I'll be done. But we never know unless we try. And if we fail, then, well, it's a lesson learned. So if your mistakes turn into lessons, they're no longer mistakes. They're lessons. This is my iron plant stand. This is the center of my garden, and this is where I grow Vinca every year because it always puts on a show in my garden. In fact, you can kind of see that Vinca from last year has already sprouted and came up from seed, but they're so tiny. So I wanted instant gratification. What I could do is place this somewhere else in my garden. And you'll also notice, see all this creeping Jenny? I did not put that in there. What happens is the creeping Jenny from my hanging planters, it grows all the way down to the ground. By the time summer is here, it'll be all the way to the bottom. And it regrows in these pots. So instead of throwing these away, whoops, got a little messy. I'll dig up that creeping Jenny plant and I'll put this somewhere else in my garden. After all, this is how I got all my other creeping Jenny. I started with one plant and I got many more. I'll fill this pot with some soil in order to keep my creeping Jenny alive until I can figure out a place to put it. There, now I have a free plant to plant somewhere else in my garden. And just like the cosmos, there is 3 plants in each pot. So when you go to the garden center, this Vinca is $7.98. But if you divide that by 3, that comes out to $2 and something cents, because there's actually 3 plants in here. And this soil does not need to be refreshed or changed. This is beautiful soil. I just put this in there, I think in the fall. My spring bulbs were here and they've been gone for a while, but I didn't want to put anything in its place because I knew I was going to reserve these containers for my Vinca, and it's definitely worth the wait. One little tip when making this mold: if your soil is too dry and you pull this pot out, all the soil will collapse in the hole. So the soil has to be a little bit moist or fresh right out of the bag. You might be wondering, how do you know when it's time to water Vinca? And how do I know if my Vinca got too much water? Well, what I do is I stick my finger in the soil about 3 inches deep. If it's dry, I give them water. If it's a little moist, I hold back. A common question I get is, what if my Vinca is wilting? How do I know if it's thirsty or it's drowning? That's a very good question. If your Vinca starts to wilt, it might be thirsty. If you water it and it still continues to wilt, then you know it wasn't because it was thirsty. It's getting too much water. If after you water wilted Vinca and it perks back up, then you know it was thirsty. So you could always try watering it when it's wilting and see what the response is. I will fertilize my Vinca with a water-soluble liquid fertilizer once a week, because just like petunias, these are heavy bloomers. That means they're heavy feeders. And then once a month, I'll give it a time-released fertilizer, like the Espoma. Those are organic and they actually feed your soil as well. And as far as the cosmos are concerned, what I've also learned is they don't like a lot of fertilizer, just like nasturtium. If you fertilize your cosmos, what happens is they produce a lot of leaves and less blooms. So fertilize the Vinca once a week, but not the cosmos. Leave them alone. Don't love those to death, and they will love you more. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day in your garden too. Bye.